Hi guys, this is Matthew from Artisan Games, and this is part 2 of the rock material guide that I was talking about earlier in some of my dev blogs. Now, this is probably the part that everyone actually may want to know, is how you get these sand to fill up in these cracks, and how do we keep it so that it's always getting projected from the top. And also like how we can control, let's say, the spread of it. So I'm going to be getting over that today pretty much, and also just setting up how this actually looks physically. If you haven't seen the first part basically goes over how we do a tileable texture that's layered over this rock, and then we got and then of course we're using the cat map, which is in the first place. So if you don't know, have a look at that. And the cat map specifies how things will be textured. All right, so we'll jump into the material now. Quick disclaimer and added to the original, which people had pointed out, is the tiling size and the texture coordinates. The tiling textures will be plugged into a texture coordinate node, which goes through a multiplier, and the multiplier allows you to add a number in to multiply that. Now, to create it, let's say that particular, you just can go and get a constant, and then we can convert that constant into a parameter which is accessible for you to use inside of a material instance. So yeah, that's how you do the texture coordinate. I will actually go through it in this next part anyway. And if you haven't seen the first one, I'm going through this in a talking format on how it's done rather than creating it, avoiding texture loading times and like all that in this tutorial. If this is not something that you like, or you'd like me to do the making it as I go, please let me know, and I can possibly do that next time. Okay. So we are going to start with projecting this sand in these crevices, and the sand itself is obviously, like all the rest of the rock, a generated texture, and I utilize a tileable mask and a tileable normal. And inside of this mask, I'm using my G channel and B channel. And so what I can do is I can use this clue sign off screen. I will open up that texture. Now here's the texture. It may look like a mess, and if you have seen the previous one, you'll know that this is how they look. You can make these your own. I can also do a tutorial based on those as well. But basically you'll get black and whites of each of these layers, and you can choose what color for these particular ones. So what this one kind of is more about is just basically, it gives you, like, the red channel's kind of giving me the overall color, and this kind of green channel is giving me these kind of, I guess, like bumps and ups and downs and crevices in this sculpt here. So, and in the blue channel, I didn't explain the blue channel, but the blue channel's got like details in it. So we're grabbing those channels, and then so I'll go with the blue one. I'm grabbing the blue channel, and then I'm going over here and I'm using it to mask these. So we can actually preview this. Now, as you can see, I'm using a power node, You probably can't really see because this is more of a sand. Yeah, this is a sand texture. What I'll do is I will drop this down to 1. You'll find that looking and previewing tiling textures are a bit tricky because of that. Because tiling textures get really full up on there, so everything's really condensed down. So you might want to just look and preview them on like 1. And basically we've got the white sections. These white sections will be filled in with the crevices color that I've turned into a parameter. And then we've got the top, which is the rest, and that will be filled in. So that's sort of how that one works. It's a very simple one. It's basically the simple version of this top section. And then I take that and I'll put it into a material, and I'll make material. So I'm attaching the normal and I've got the material. Yeah. Now this is the actual projection side. Now, let's say you had snow or you had moss. You don't need to, you don't necessarily need to generate a rock texture. You could have, let's say, some moss texture, so you can have like a moss base color, a moss, and then you can have like the metal roughness, and you could also have it like a normal for it. And you can attach these up and you could actually make a couple of these different materials. So you can have a moss version, and you can have sand version, snow version. Be aware that your material will get more intense if you do have more of those actually going on, but you can do that. I'm just generating because I'm this particular game much more stylized palette, so using colors and stylizing is actually easy for me. But you can use baked textures to fill in that section. What you ultimately want in the end is a make material. This material is actually going to be blended over the top of the other material. So the original material, the original base material that I demonstrated, will be actually overlaid in this section. So I'm using a material layer blend standard. So this is just a standard blend. It tells you how to blend the top section and the bottom section, and the alpha for it. And I'm also using a switch here, which allows me to have the option of actually having that sand blending over the top or not. And I'm actually just using a Boolean statement here. All right. By the way, you can search all these up by just typing in Boolean statement and switch. If you get lost. So this is actually this is where all the kind of magic is kind of happening. And the biggest magic is our vertex normal world node. Now I'll show you how one of these bad boys work. So we'll actually start to preview this. Actually, oh yeah, there we go. So what is going on is it's utilizing these colors, like how I've utilized colors in texture maps before, to work out top down, left, right, up and down, and they're layered over one another. Now, if we were to apply this material, what I could do actually is I'll grab one of my rocks. You'll see that a lot of people, like in tutorials, will preview this differently, but I find this way much more friendly. So just use the preview name. Alright, so I will grab one of these. We'll go down to the bottom, and then we can just drop and drag this rock into this preview here.
Sorry. There we go. All right. So yeah, so that's what we're getting. Now I'm using the blue channel. The blue channel is for projecting on the top of an object. So if we go like this and we go to Start Preview, we'll notice that there's blue being there's a white on the top and there's black on the bottom. Now, if you can remember a few tutorials back, we've also used other methods on also using -1 to flip our black and white images around. So if you wanted to, you could also use a -1 node here, and you could flip it upside down and preview and have something projected on the bottom. So you could use that for projecting things on the bottom. But a cool couple of things is you could also check out what's going on in the other channels. So we've got our green channel. Our green channel is actually projecting from the side, one of the sides. And then the red channel itself is also projecting from one of the, also another side, which is there. And of course, if we wanted to, we could combine them. And now we're projecting from all those sides. We don't want to use one of those. So you can use combinations of these. Now you'll notice that you don't actually get, for example, you projected there's one on that side and one on that side, and it's sort of just kind of, and you got the blend of these two, or you got another blend here. It's here. And you'll notice there's a black section. Now what you would do is actually you would blend these and then you would invert to get the rest. So you could actually get the whole, you can get something to be projected through world space on all angles across and around the object, which could be useful for you. I actually might use one of these because they just nicer in shape. Okay. So yeah, that's how we go. Alright, stop. And we'll stop that. So, what's going on here is that I'm using the blue channel from the bottom, and I'm projecting that on the top. And obviously this is the wrong object for the wrong cat material, but it's going to look funny. Now I'm using a power node. This, as I said, it increases the fill amount, which will basically fill more of that top section. So we can actually preview what's going on in this. Now you notice that here was like black and white. Now the more I add to this, it should cut it down. So these will be less on top, and then of course we can have almost the full amount on top, which, you know, or we could just have what I was having before as one. So a nice little blend. So you're using a power node to intensify the colors, and obviously you're getting from this is a gradient in blue, on the blue channel what's masked. So you're intensifying the colors and you're getting a stronger values between them. All right. And now this is where I've created some more, I guess, interest. Is what I've done here is I've taken the texture. So this here, I've taken the green channel, which has the more grittier part of the actual texture itself. And this is to make sure that if you can see in these gradients, these edges are relatively unrealistic, doesn't really look so nice. It is much more generated sort of look. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing that grungy edge, and then I'm multiplying that to get a much more intense grungy edge. Start previewing that. You'll notice that it's just a grunginess over the entire object. And what I will do is actually just bring this back up to, I believe this is 15, and you'll see what's going on. The tiling texture on this object is everywhere, obviously, but there's these white sections. So what happens is we go into here, we bring this, which this one has white on the top, black on the bottom, and now we're multiplying them together. And then we're adding, which is interesting. So what the multiplying is first off, I'm multiplying, which is adding the black and then almost wiping out that white. And adding, and then of course, like making the white more interesting. So we'll start previewing that one. It does this sort of effect. So it's added the black in here, and it's added white to the top. But you'll notice that there's still black there. And that's what multiply does different to add. If I were using add, you'll find that add would make this whiter, and have like a kind of weird gray to it. So then we go to the add, and then as you can see in the add, that's done the what I said. Now, doing it this way did knock off the bottom section, which is pretty much what we did. We didn't want any white grunginess on the bottom. We just want the grunginess on the top and the white, and we want it to be very to vary, so that we can do what I'm doing next is basically contrasting it, which will create more contrast between the two. And we're also using a power node and applying this over the top as well, which is another layer of interest, which I'll actually explain a little bit more. So first off, we added, got this, we can grunge it, make it more grungy, which creates this nice blend. Now, if you remember back to the first part of the tutorial of the first one, when we're using the cat model. Now, this was to do with the object itself and using the cat texture, and this creates this in the cracks where I want it to be. Now, without using this, what I have here, which I'll take this off actually, and actually show you what happens if I was not to use this. So this might take a little bit, but what it will do is it will add it to the top, all of the top, and it won't just be in the crevices. So what I've taken, I can't move this around. Oh, I can move it around actually. What I have done is I've taken the AOE, the ambient occlusion part of the cat map, and then I've taken it and then I've added it, well, used a power node to create more intense colors, more intense blacks and whites, and then I've inverted it so that I could fill into those crevices, and multiplied it over the top of the ambient occlusion, which layers it but makes the darks more dark and the lights light, which creates kind of nice, which makes a nice blend. Because we also don't want to add those underneath, and that's why we're using the multiplier, is when it doesn't actually add to the bottom. So there we go. Obviously, as the levels of the grund will need to be adjusted, but you can see what happens. So you got that nice layered top section. Now, if I was to go into the material instance of that, and here's the material instance, I've got this down here, I can adjust that fill amount. So I could take that fill amount and, one. There we go. So I could take that, and then it would just be sand project, like a nice like layer of sand on the top. And I could make it more grungy by increasing that contrast between the two. And that's how it works. So you could actually get some, like, this could be snow, it could be moss, it could be grass if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be what I'm actually using here. And you can tell, like, you can still see the tiling happening. So I can increase or decrease this tiling, which would make it look interesting. So we'll go back here. So that's what's occurring in this node. We've taken that AO and then blended them together, which makes that fill into the cracks and crevices. If you wanted to, you could make a combination of both, which would, what I would use is from here, another lerp node. So we could actually go lerp, we could take this value and then have this as the added well, actually it'd be slightly different as the added value, and then we could put that into the contrast, and then what we may want to have is actual this node, and we'll convert it into a parameter so we can adjust it. And this will allow us to create some variations. So I'm going to go 0.5, which is half and half. So we could apply that. I do hope that this has been helpful. If it has been helpful and you'd like to see more, please let me know. Please feel free to ask me questions as well. I apologize if the format isn't as great. If you want more shorter videos, or let me know if you want more longer and more detailed videos. I'm trying to make it so more detailed and explain why I'm using certain things rather than telling you use X, Y, and Z and you just get the results. So that you can learn and be able to grow and understand what things do and what and how to put them together. After this shade is finished compiling, I can demo the finished asset. So you guys feel free if you wanted to finish up now or not. But yeah, as you can see, top section has sand on it, and we can adjust that blend, which will show the blend between the two. You'll probably want to edit that obviously and create some slight adjustments, so might want to actually adjust. There's my blending value. There's that scaler. There. And you can just scale it like that. See, how cool is that? Yep. So now, if you've done all of that, you should have a really nice or almost interesting fully generating material. It will put itself together. Now, as you can see, the couple of extra things have made it a little bit more complicated, but our base instruction count is relatively low. It is a bit more higher than what you would have for some assets, but it's still in the green and still relatively optimal. But be aware of your base shader instruction count. The instruction count
You don't want to have that going up too high, otherwise your game is going to find it very difficult to run things. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I will see you guys next time. Yeah, and let me know if there's anything else you want. Alright, catch you again.